basic training is intense and not always in just the way that you think. Sure, everyone thinks it's hard mentally and physically, but there's a ton of really weird things that are going to change or happen to you while you're going through boot camp, recruit training, whatever you want to call it. And in this video, we're going to discuss 11 of them to help you prepare mentally for some of the things that you just have no idea are coming. Okay, the very first thing is grown men crying or emotional breakdowns. And to be fair, if you're a lady watching this, I'm sure that this happens as well, but it's probably a little bit less nerve-wracking to see a female crying in this situation than it is to see a grown-ass man crying in this situation. And I will tell you that I've seen it. In fact, during receiving week in 2008, when I joined the Marine Corps, I distinctly remember hearing men, boys, whatever you want to call them, 18 and up, sobbing, crying in the darkness on the second night when they're like, oh my God, what did I do? What happened? I can't believe this is going on. Like, there's just a ton of stress, right? If you've ever done like a half marathon or a half Ironman or a full marathon, and you get to the end, like that's an incredibly emotional thing, not just because you finish, but because you're physically exhausted and you lack the capacity to deal with the emotion. So you just let it all out, right? Because men, we often keep things bottled in. And so if you imagine you're physically and mentally exhausted from the first day or two of receiving at your respective branches recruit training, and on top of that, you've been treated like crap, you're sleeping in a cold rack, like there's all these other things going on, and so men people just cry it out, right? Now, that's a little odd to hear sometimes because as boys, we're not used to being around men crying, especially not more than one, right? And it does happen, and I will say that, like, no judgment, it happens. The question of like, what the hell did I just sign up for is fairly common. The second one here is bodily fluid fiascos, and I'd love to tell you that this is just like a little bit of saliva when the drill instructor's yelling at you, but while I was at recruit training, I've seen people puke on themselves, piss themselves, and crap themselves, and it is what it is. In fact, I distinctly remember during firing week, like when we're training, we're doing what we call snap in. You wrap into all the stuff, and you learn how to hold a rifle, and so you're wrapping into the strap, and you're holding positions to really build that muscle memory and that bone-on-bone conduct firing. And at one point, we're all in the kneeling, right? So you're kneeling down on one knee and you're all strapped in, and it's an intense position. It is not comfortable, and you're having to hold it for a significant period of time because not only is the marksmanship instructor having to walk around and correct everybody's form, but they also want you to build, muscle memory. It's really not muscle memory. It's position memory because you're not supposed to muscle the weapon, but they want you to learn that so that when you're shooting, that position is drilled in and they're not having to correct on the line because they want you to correct your shot grouping, not your position. And so, all that being said, we are sitting in this position for like 30, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, and they're like, 5 more minutes, and everybody's whatever, and if anybody moves, they add to the timer. So if you break the position, they add a minute, they add 5 minutes, they add 10 minutes, they add 15 minutes, and then everybody in the group is pissed because, like, we almost got out of this uncomfortable-ass position, and you moved. And I distinctly remember holding this position, and I'm at, like, my wit's end, and the guy to my left pees himself. And I mean, I basically, out of the corner of my eye, see a little bit of a puddle. Nothing crazy, but you can see it. And you're like, homeboy just pissed himself. Here we are. Because that dude had the bearing, the discipline not to move because it would have screwed everybody. And he just straight up peed himself right there. And then that's not even to mention like all the standing in line and all the times that you're like, bladder's about to burst because you're doing a million things. I've seen grown men crap themselves because they couldn't get into a porta potty fast enough or the timeline or whatever. And then, of course, we've seen plenty of people puke, often as a result of basically being an idiot right after you ate your lunch and then getting to do what we call IT sessions, which is intensive training, which is like push-ups, burpees, mountain climbers, whatever, in fast succession. And if you're too much of an idiot right after you wolf down your food, they will, the drill instructors will use that as a training opportunity to allow you to see your food again, right? And so I've seen a little bit of all of this, and it is what it is. Sometimes it just takes some getting used to, and the guy who peed himself so we didn't have to stay in that position for 15 more minutes, hats off, I salute you. In the same vein, you may go days without utilizing the restroom, not urine, but having to take a number 2, right? Part of this is like the MREs are actually designed, the meals ready to eat are actually designed in a way that help constipate you so that while you're training, you don't have to utilize, it basically solidifies your stool. So anyway, you may go longer periods of time between that and the food. And also because depending on where you grew up, like you're for the first time in your life, maybe eating correct portions of food instead of oversized portions of food. And so you don't have to go to the restroom as often if you're burning those calories and you're losing weight as you do when you overindulge. But you may notice days where you don't use the restroom, and then all of a sudden you do. And by the way, I don't know how everybody else's branch of training is, but for the Marine Corps, the number 2 in your barracks room or your squad bay ultimately is basically it's a wall of toilets on one side and a wall of toilets on the other side with no doors on either end. And so you sit down to take a crap facing, whoever's taking a crap in the other stall, and you're like, hi, how are you? How's your day going? Except you don't talk because it's recruit training and you're terrified. But that's the thing. Okay, the next one on the list here is sleep and mental fatigue. I mean, you're going to just be exhausted, right? Which leads right into the other one, which is the ability to basically sleep anywhere. I'll tell you this, you'll probably get better and more sleep at boot camp than any other time in service because they'll force you 8 hours of sleep. You might have Firewatch every other night or every couple nights, but you're getting 7 hours or 8 hours of sleep depending on Firewatch. And there's no distractions. There's no scroll on your phone. There's no, you're in the wreck. You're going to bed. You're going to pass out because you're tired, and you'll wake up when Reveille goes off. And so you get a pretty decently organized sleep cycle. But nonetheless, you're going to just be exhausted all the time, physically and mentally, because you're trying to learn everything. You're trying to run all over the place. Drill instructors are screaming at you. It's a lot of stress. It's a high intensity. And so it's just a lot of stuff going on. You'll just sleep the moment you get the opportunity to, which leads into the whole sleep anywhere. Like anytime you have the opportunity, you're on a bus, you're in your rack, you're whatever, you're going to be able to sleep. And that'll carry on through the military. There are plenty of times while you're in the military that you're going to have a few moments of downtime and just crash. And that just is what it is. By the way, a super handy skill when it comes to flying on an airplane later on in life. Motor function, right? People, you're going to forget how to walk. It's the funniest thing because when you start learning how to march and you start overthinking it, you will see guys who legitimately walk left hand, left knee, right hand, right leg, whatever, rather than, the normal cadence of marching because they're so focused on, taking that full, pick your leg up, 30-inch step, heel strike, 30-inch step, heel strike, march, that they just it overwhelms. And all of a sudden they're doing the duck walk or the way. I can't even do it when I'm trying now, but you will see it. And drill instructors will just have an absolute heyday with it. But this really does happen. And so it's just, again, part of that stress and everything else. You're going to learn to be incredibly quick with obedience to orders, regardless. Everything in that first week or 2 or 3, and then going from there is dictated. They will legitimately teach you how to shave. It'll be shaving cream on the hand, shaving cream on the face, whatever, however they teach you. Grab the razor, go. Whether you have to shave or not, irrelevant. You're going to get walked through it. Nut to butt is another thing where you're literally, in a line and you're right there. The line is this and you're moving. You're just take a step. You're also going to learn left foot first everywhere you go, no matter what. And that'll probably carry on with you for the rest of your life where you feel natural stepping off with your left foot. And there's just a lot of these oddities that will come with the obedience and the just listening and doing exactly what you're told at recruit training. That whole nut to butt thing takes a little bit of getting used to, and it ain't no metaphor. They're going to scream at you to tighten it up, and it is what it is. You're also probably going to fall victim to drill instructors being hilarious at times, and you're going to try to keep your bearing. And there's just some wild things that happen at boot camp, some of which you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And some of it is just outright hilarious. Some of it is drill instructors just messing with recruits, right? I remember one time in the middle of the night, kid could not report his post on Firewatch, and the drill instructor basically just had him report it, just scream it at a wall for 20 minutes. You're going to report your post to that wall until the wall responds. And this kid's just in the corner, this recruit does report, blah, 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 right? Let's see if I can remember it. It's been a long time. Good morning, sir. Recruit Pere reports that barracks, blah, 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 is all secure. There's nothing else to report at this time, sir. Whatever, that kind of stuff. And he's just screaming it at this wall, right? So there's that. I also remember in the very first week, I had a rack mate. He was top bunk, I was bottom bunk in this week. And while he was getting IT'd, remember the push-ups and burpees and mountain climbers and jumping jacks and all that stuff that you do in succession as kind of punishment, but also as just training. He had a seizure. He's doing that and he had a seizure. And so they called the ambulance. He ended up being fine, but they called the ambulance. They set him on the rack, right? And remember, he was top bunk, but they put him on the bottom rung, obviously. So he gets pulled to the bottom rack, and they're immediately, everybody go to your rack. And so we go to the rack, and I'm standing right next to it. Because they're what are you doing? I'm that's my rack, sir. That's this recruit's rack, because you talk in third person. And so, I can't get in my bed, because he's in my bed, waiting on the medics. And I didn't want to climb in my bed, because that's not my bed. And I was, you listen to what you're told. And I basically got to finish his IT session. They were like, well, we're going to get you out of the way. So they pulled me out of the quarterdeck. And so like while the paramedics are coming in to get homeboy, I am doing burpees and stuff because of his mess up. And then he had a seizure, which is ridiculous. Oh, another good one at recruit training is if you get caught spitting into like the sand, onto the pavement, whatever, they're going to have you pick up the spit and put it in your pocket. I don't know if that's an every branch thing, but Marine Corps, like if you got caught spitting into the sand, you picked up the sand and put the sand in your pocket. It is what it is. Teach you to spit all over the place, I guess. The next one up is like the name game, the identity shift. Like you're going to go from Dave or David to Pere, right? And you're going to go last name. You'll be Miller. You'll be that way for life. Like I've still got friends to this day. Like I'm hanging out with a buddy just this afternoon. He just texted me, a guy named Cody Webb, who I had to sit and think of what his first name was to type it into my phone to invite him to cigars because all I knew him as was Webb. And apparently in my phone, I had misspelled Webb. And so it wasn't coming up. And I'm like, I know I have his number. And it took me a while to remember his name's Cody because he's Webb, right? And so, there's a bunch of these. You just get to know everyone that way. And if you're like me, where your last name is Pere or however you want to say it, Pere, and it's a weird one to pronounce, you just end up with nicknames. So my nickname, almost every unit I ever ended up at, I was Frenchie, right? I even have it tattooed on my chest. Frenchie. I have friends who still to this day call me Frenchie, and I've been out of the Marine Corps for 4 years. And so that's just going to happen. You're going to end up last name. You're going to end up with an identity shift. You're going to be, if you're in the Marine Corps, you're going to be a Marine. If you're in the military or in the Army, you're going to be a soldier. If you're in the Air Force, you'll be an airman. If you're in the Navy, you'll be a seaman, like so on and so forth. Coast Guard. I don't know if Coastie is just what we call them or what they call themselves. But you're going to have that whole identity shift, and then you're going to start going by your last name all the time. And you're going to have this whole emotional thing, right? Like where you go to boot camp and you get the ego kicked out of you real quick. Like nobody cares. You're not special. Deal with it. You might be like king of the castle or captain of your football team, president of your school, like whatever, super Mr. Popularity, cool kid. And now you're at boot camp. Nobody cares. Do better. Never good enough. Nothing else matters. Blah, 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 blah. Like it is what it is. You are just a person, just a number, just a thing. You are a recruit. You're nothing special. You are not special. You do not matter. Your ego is going to take a massive hit. Then it's going to get built back up. By the time you get to Marine Week or Fleet Week or whatever that last week is, where you've essentially graduated from recruit training and you're waiting on the actual graduation with your parents, now you're like king of the castle around town because everybody at recruit training is just eyeballing your platoon as you go by. And you're going to feel all of that pride and everything else. And that's going to carry on as soon as you get out. You're going to go home and you're going to be kind of this, I don't want to say chip on your shoulder, but like kind of, you're going to have a little bit of a gusto, an ego, a pride thing that is recognizable by anyone and everyone who sees you, especially if they knew you before. Like the change from before and after, especially for Marine Corps boot camp, which I can only speak to because that's what I was in and what I was a recruiter for. But the before and after of kids who went to boot camp and they came back a Marine, I mean, night and day. Even parents who hated the idea of their kid going into the military and fought tooth and nail to keep them from it are proud of what that child, that son, that man becomes, right? That daughter, that woman becomes. It's a thing of pride. And so all of that is going to change. And you will have a sense of pride, almost superiority ego. So like keep that in check because ego is the enemy. But it's really, really, really cool to see. And finally, like be careful of basic training goggles. Now I know in other branches of the service, so when I went through, there were no females even on the base that I was at. So we didn't have to worry about this. Other branches do have this issue. And then post boot camp, you'll have this issue, which is essentially your standards because you haven't seen a girl in like 3 months. You'll have, whatever you want to call it. When I was in Okinawa, we called it island vision or Oki vision. When I was in Afghanistan, we called it desert vision. Boot camp, you can call it like recruit training vision, boot camp vision. There's just all sorts of oddities that come with like being disconnected for that long and then getting back around females. You're going to find people, and this I'm sure goes the same for females to guys. I just don't have that experience, but you're going to find people that you normally would not have found attractive. You're going to probably, there's this whole inkling to get married right after boot camp. You should avoid that. Just a lot of stuff going on. And so there's going to be some romance and you just need to make sure you protect yourself and don't make any dumb mistakes because of that. Like be cognizant that you're a little bit off on your standards and that person may still be amazing, but give it time. Don't rush into anything. You have time. All right, this is a whole bunch of weird things that come out of recruit training that you're going to have to deal with and go through. Hope you got something out of it. Look, if you're here, we are here to help you learn everything you need to know to get into the military, decide on what branch, whether enlisted or officer, active or reserve, all those questions answered in our YouTube video. We want to help guide you through this process. And then where we really specialize is helping young service members and veterans, of course, but young service members make the right financial decisions to set themselves up for success in the future, which is why if you scan this little QR code right here, you can download a free PDF copy of my book, The No BS Guide to Military Life, which is everything I wish I'd known when I first joined the military. It'll help point you in the right direction for what to do with your first few paychecks, your thrift savings plan, and even how and when to use your VA loan, as well as tons of career advice and personal advice. And we hope that you'll follow along on the journey so that A, you can join the military smoothly, and B, you can set yourself up for success and be a success story out of your time in service rather than a hardship story, because unfortunately, we've all seen that and we do not want any of you to end up there. So if you got something out of this video, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. And if there's something I missed that you've been through recruit training and you're like, damn, he missed this and this was weird, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear what other stuff happens, especially because I only know one branch of the military, and I know that there are other branches of the military that have some stuff going on at recruit training that we don't. And I'd love to hear more of that. Have a great day. Semper Fi.